So today we'll indeed finally get to the Siksastakam prayers, and we'll look at, our aim is to look at verse 1 as well as verse 2 and discuss some notes I have gathered from the commentaries of the Acharyas. And hopefully this will inspire you all to, whatever level you're at, to go deeper into your bhakti practices, which are all centered upon chanting Hare Krishna. So as we explained a day or two ago, these Siksastakam prayers are known as Lord Chaitanya's only compositions or writings. And he would taste these verses. He would recite them, his own compositions, and taste them in the association of his most intimate associates like Srup Damodar and Ramananda Roy. And these verses would bring about deep, pure emotional developments in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, these verses contain everything, just these 8 verses. And the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan merely, you might say, merely expanded upon these 8 verses. In all their voluminous writings of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, basically they're expanding just on Siksastakam, believe it or not. Now you might say, well, how in those 8 verses could all those thousands upon thousands of words of the Goswamis be found? But just remember, Lord Brahma's version of Bhagavatam is how many verses? 4 verses. Yet, the whole Bhagavatam is there for him in 4 verses. Our Srimad Bhagavatam, depending on how you divide the verses, is more or less 18,000 verses. The demigods have, in terms of quantity, a shorter version of Bhagavatam because their intelligence is so sharp. They can just hear a few verses and see everything. So similarly, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan saw everything within Lord Chaitanya's 8 verses. We'll begin with verse 1, which comes about, as you'll find in the last chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Verse 1 of the Siksastakam comes about because Lord Chaitanya is pondering what is the most practical, efficient way that conditioned souls in Kali Yuga, this age of darkness, can actually achieve success. So right away, we're presented with the usefulness, shall we say, practicality and efficiency of chanting Hare Krishna. And this is important for us to understand because we get overwhelmed by circumstances, our lack of being careful about chanting with attention starts to overtake us. We don't feel that so-called buzz that we first felt when we were new devotees and started to chant. The romance seems to have worn off. The thrill seems to have diminished. And so we may, in an unconscious or conscious way, start thinking, well, this chanting, Okay, it works for others, but it doesn't seem to be working for me. So just like regular relationships, you may go through ups and downs and periods of insensitivity and unresponsiveness, and then you go through some nectar phases. So your relationship with the Hare Krishna mantra can be like that. So remember, yesterday we were discussing quantity and quality. And we are hearing Srila Prabhupada's insistence that be practical, be realistic, show your integrity and character by properly doing the quantity. Do that properly, and in its own way, the quality will come. You can't force it. This is surprising for us because we think, well, if I just try harder, the taste should come. But what Srila Prabhupada was explaining is that out of integrity and character, you try harder, but at the same time, you know the taste comes when Krishna wants it to come. And we don't like that. We want to be in control. We want everything to be automatic, like, I don't think they have vending machines anymore, do they? Still? So we want our chanting to function like a vending machine. Put the money in or whatever, and out comes the result. But what Srila Prabhupada was emphasizing was that you dedicate yourself to the practice. Focus on the practice. And the result comes of its own accord because the result is Krishna, and Krishna is independent. And we don't like Krishna being independent. We want Krishna to be subject to us. Okay, Krishna, now that I have started practicing bhakti, everything is clear. You do what I want. You come when I want. Well, as many of you know, that doesn't even work in a family relationship. But we want it to happen with Krishna. Snap your fingers, Krishna comes running. Well, that works for Mother Yashoda because she has pure love. And Krishna does want to come under the control of our pure love. But Krishna is the supreme intelligent. He knows he's not going to fulfill the orders of someone who doesn't have pure love, because that's not the best for the devotee. In fact, if the devotee is sincere, Krishna can arrange to not have any ordinary desires fulfilled, just to bring that devotee quicker and closer to his lotus feet. So what we can always remember is that our spiritual character and integrity is demonstrated by our practice. You know that hard, that unfathomable example we discussed yesterday? The old Vedic style of marriage, the girl would marry at 8, and the guy, 15 or so. And as we heard the explanation given, there's no question of love, however you want to construe it, at the age of 8. But the environment is structured in such a way, the social system is structured in such a way that you're slotted in and things happen. And of course, the contemporary Kali Yuga person hates that. You hate to be slotted in. You want to feel that you have unlimited options at your disposal. And then what actually happens? You become a teenager and you're just devastated. The illusory energy disposes of you. When you thought, let everything be at hand for me to dispose of as I like, but the illusory energy just disposes of you. So Srila Prabhupada was making the point that you organize your life in the right way, you do the right things, the result will come, but you can't force it, yet the result will come. This is hard for us to understand with our perverted Western mentalities. And even in India, it's hard to understand these days. Everyone's victimized by this false sense of independence, and I have so many options, and I don't want to be boxed in by what my parents choose. I don't want to be boxed in by anything except my hormones. And that's okay, that's freedom. So it's very interesting, as we were explaining yesterday, how Srila Prabhupada explained this point about quantity and quality chanting. We're going to talk more today about organizing your life for quality chanting. And we'll bring out some surprising information, even from material scientists who point out that your willpower and sense of discipline, your raw determination, is actually not such a crucial factor as you think. Something else plays an extraordinary role in what you do and whether you are successful in your lifestyle or not. But first, let us chant the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anjalila, chapter 20, text 12. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam. Anandam Buddhi Bhadanam Pratipadam Purnam Ritas Bhadanam. Savatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Chaito Darpanam Ajanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam. Anandam Bhuti Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnam Ritas Vardhanam. Savatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vataranam Vidyavadu Jivanam. Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvardhanam. Savatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam. Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamrita sadhanam. Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Vaishnavis. Cheta of the heart. Darpana, the mirror. Marjanam, cleansing. Bhava, of material existence. Mahadava Agni, the blazing forest fire. Nirvapanam, extinguishing. Shreya, of good fortune. Kairava, the white lotus. Chandrika, the moonshine. Vitaranam, spreading. Vidya, of all education. Vadu, wife. Jivanam, the life. Ananda, of bliss. Ambudi, the ocean. Vardhanam, increasing. Pratipadam, at every step. Purna Amrita, of the full nectar. Asvadanam, giving a taste. Sarva, for everyone. Atmasnapanam, bathing of the self. Padam, transcendental. Vijayate. Let there be victory. Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. For the congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Translation. Let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which can cleanse the mirror of the heart and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone and enables one to taste full nectar at every step. Let us repeat. Let there be all victory for the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Which can cleanse the mirror of the heart and stop the miseries of the blazing fire of material existence. That chanting is the waxing moon that spreads the white lotus of good fortune for all living entities. It is the life and soul of all education. The chanting of the holy name of Krishna expands the blissful ocean of transcendental life. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. And it enables one to taste full nectar at every step. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this verse has no purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but we're going to read from various comments I've assembled from the works of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And of course, yesterday we had an extensive explanation by Srila Prabhupada of quality and quantity chanting. And also today we'll discuss some organizational matters in terms of how to get your life together for better bhakti practices. We spoke about habits, how your life is an accumulation of so many habits, conscious and unconscious, and that if you want at all to get on top of your life, you need to be aware of all the things you do mechanically, ritualistically. Even things like brushing your teeth every morning, taking a shower, that should be on your list. And also on your list should be things you don't want to admit to yourself. Every 2 minutes I check my phone, see who's trying to contact me. At night, instead of taking rest early, I feel the need to let my mind roam over the internet. Put that down on your list too. And as we pointed out, you put a plus or a minus next to each habitual or ritualistic activity you do, and then you can make an evaluation. But at least first you have to become aware of the conscious and unconscious drivers in your life. Because you may think you're firmly in the driver's seat, but actually your habits are. So if you want to transform your life, then you need to make little tweaks here and there amongst your apparently little activities. And it all adds up. those little tweaks all add up to making a big difference. Otherwise, as we pointed out, we just want to give you a quick refresher. If you just kind of work yourself into a frenzy, okay, I've been to the festival, yeah, I gotta focus more on my bhakti practices. Yes, that's got to be in the center of my life, of my ashram, of my home. But you'll probably find that you run out of steam, because what is really dominating your agenda? All these little habits that accumulate into an outcome. So if you just focus on outcomes, yes, I'm going to be more enthusiastic. Krishna's going to be more in the center of our home. And you don't focus on the systems that you consciously or unconsciously have in place, you're going to miss the point. You're going to miss the boat. It's not going to happen. Rarely. Especially if you're in one of the more social ashrams, in which you've got work responsibilities, family responsibilities, socializing responsibilities. So you really need to be on top of your game. And how do you get on top of your game? It's all the little things that add up throughout the day that form your life. And I know from talking to devotees, sometimes they express, I'm just powerless. This happened and that happened, and this is just a busy time of the year, or this or that or the other. And we accept these pressures and drivers that we're conscious of. We don't talk about the ones we're not conscious of, but we accept all that as just, that's the way it is. Because you say that's the way it is because of a lack of understanding how to tackle the situation, how to cope. So that's the way it is. Because it seems too much to just grab the bull by the horns, so to speak, and grab your whole lifestyle situation and turn it into another direction. Oh, no one can do that. Come on, Maharaj, don't you understand? There's this and that and the other, and it just has to be that way, you know? And because you're looking at your whole life and thinking you can it's like your whole life is like a 787 aircraft, and you can just turn it around on the spot. And you know you can't do that, so therefore you just say, I guess that's the way it is until, I'm 60 or 70. You got to go through what you got to go through, right? No, you don't have to. So the association of devotees should inspire you to be determined and be dedicated, but how do you apply all that? If you try to do it in an unrealistic way, you'll feel discouraged. So therefore, we can take advantage of some material science in terms of how to deal with our own psychology. We're not as strong and big as we think. Although the Western notion generally is that the individual has so much willpower and determination. If you're failing in your life, it's because you're not determined enough. You've got to be strong and pull yourself up. Those who do that are successful. Those who don't, they just stay daydreaming no-hopers. What is being overlooked? And some neuroscientists are realizing what's being overlooked is how you're being pushed around by your environment. So usually, people can have the conception that successful persons are those with determination and drive and self-discipline. And unsuccessful persons are those who are weak and just have no initiative, no sense of drive and determination. But there's some suspicion about this notion now, that actually human beings are more influenced by their environment than what they would admit ordinarily. So in other words, when you see someone who is apparently very self-determined, very strong, very proactive about their lifestyle, you might be misperceiving the situation. You may not actually be looking at a so-called ruggedly strong individualist person who can say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make this change, and I'm going to make this transformation. What you're actually looking at is someone who has, with discipline, engineered their environment. And then their environment carries them along. So instead of just raw, brute determination, I'm going to be like this, you see someone who has applied their discipline to their environment, not just the raw ascent up the mountain, the face of the mountain, but they've structured their life so that the best outcomes can be there. Just like, for example, the will to resist temptation. Is that so much to do with just individual strength? Or is it due to someone who arranges their life, their environment, so they don't have many opportunities to have to be tempted and show their strength? In other words, they structure their environment so that they're the least opportunities for provocation. But we would just say, oh, well, that person must be a mystic yogi. That person must be special. Who has that kind of determination to resist this and not be provoked by that? But what you're missing is that most likely the person's ingenuity is shown in how he or she engineers their environment. So therefore, there are less provocations. That means less opportunities to show your great willpower because you've structured your environment. So it's a different way of looking at things. Of course, in Bhakti, we know that willpower is important because you're dealing with the illusory energy. And material scientists don't understand how the illusory energy has a mission. It will get in your face because its thankless task is to test you to see how sincere you want to achieve Krishna. So it's not that the material energy is just not doing anything. It's got a program, it's got an agenda. And yes, you have to have willpower to resist that. Still, by engineering your environment, you can minimize the provocations. You can minimize the opportunities for you to be a hero just by fixing your environment around you. So, embedded in your consciousness are so many prompts or cues from the past. Material scientists will say, from this lifetime, of course, we'll say, anadi karma phale, babi babarnava jale. You can't get to the end of it. So many lifetimes, your consciousness has accumulated so much debris, and that debris prompts you to act in certain ways. And all it takes is triggers for those monsters to come out of the deep, dark lagoon of your consciousness. Like one example is given is someone starts smoking because whenever she would go horseback riding with friends, everyone would smoke while they're on horseback, riding, chatting, and smoking. So in order to break the habit, the person stopped smoking and stopped riding horses. But then years later, neuroscientists point out, such a person can jump on a horse and immediately start thinking, where's the cigarette? because of these embedded prompts or cues in the consciousness. Maybe you've seen it happen to you. You're on book distribution and you haven't thought about going to a nightclub for years. And then while you're in Queen Street in Auckland or somewhere in the center city, you walk past one of your old haunts. One of the nightclubs you used to go to, and all of a sudden, memories come back. That's how fickle the mind is. So, of course, those who read Bhagavatam understand you're dealing with the mind which contains so many surprises and monsters hidden deep in its depths. And so, yeah, you get a bit rattled. Like, oh, what? I thought I was over that. I thought I was beyond that. So devotees will learn, if they're going to go the distance, how to handle that with humility. We understand and respect the power of the illusory energy. So again, we're back to the point of the environment. Show your heroics by designing your environment at home or in the ashram. Don't just leave everything for random occurrences and just if some provocation gets in my face, I can handle it. I've got willpower. I've been chanting for 2 years. Or I've been around for 20, 25 years. There'll be a time for heroics, I guarantee you. There'll be a time when the illusory energy just pounds on your door, and it will take strength and bhakti determination and application to overcome. But generally, it's your everyday environment that's going to make or break you. So this understanding should help you shape your ashram, your home, turn it into a place in which there's the least opportunity for demands of heroism to be placed on you. Go through your environment and see all the prompts, the cues that could result in activities you don't want to do. Just like if you're always living on your phone and you want to chant Hare Krishna and read in peace or even discuss with someone in peace without constantly looking at the phone, put your phone in another room. Oh my God. How primitive. If you have a habit of staying up late at night on the internet, do something that at 9 p.m. the power to your laptop cuts off or something. Have a timer or do something. Change your environment, in other words. We've talked about these days we've talked about the male problem. The male problem in the world today, courtesy of the internet, is porn. So I tell men who have that problem, I said, look, you've got to decide. Do you want the so-called convenience of having a smartphone, or do you want the depths of Kali Yuga? Be honest. If it's too much having a smartphone because you'll go to certain websites, then get a dumb phone. You know, they still make them. Did you know that? Oh, but how could I do that? I have so many important messages. I have so many this and that. Yeah, but guess what? While you're having the important messages, you're also driving yourself on the motorway to hell. So better you structure your environment so you minimize the opportunities for such degradation. One big marketing firm in the USA just came out with the stunning information about the 5 most impactful IT entities in the world. The IT entities that affect the most lives throughout the world. So, what do you think number 1 was? Facebook. Number 2, Google. Number 4 was Apple, but number 3, Pornhub. A website where the worst garbage is there. And they just say, well, it's like YouTube. We just allow people to upload, and, we're just a forum for people to upload. We can't just be responsible for everything that someone uploads. And, oh, it's the worst. Even involving children. That's the number 3 most impactful IT entity in the world. Of course, the ladies are astonished to hear this. The men, it sounds about right. And so the men have all these fantasies in their mind from watching all this degradation, and they bring that into their relationships. Either they say that, well, the relationship I have is not like what I saw on Pornhub, so So either they don't take their home life seriously, or else they think it's boring compared to what I can see on the internet, which is complete fantasy. So this is what's behind the scenes in the madness of today. And especially it's like that in India, because India has so many IT adept persons, and and this allows you to keep your profile. During the day you go to the mandir, you offer pranams to the deities, and then no one knows, but when you're on your own laptop and smartphone, you could be dealing with the worst of Kali Yuga. I've told you how once I was giving a class with a godbrother sannyasi in India, and it was a gathering of 300 brahmacharis. And I was speaking to them about how I know what you all are thinking, that you're not like the devotees in the West who've been through parties and girlfriends and this and that, and you're pucka. And then I said, but what about the internet? What about the porn? 200 out of 300 immediately started looking at the ground. So then the sannyasi godbrother who was with me, who's based in India, started to explain to him, guess what, Prabhus? Pornography is breaking the regular principles. So if you want to deal with that, and so many men have to deal with it, the ladies don't know, but yeah, so many men have to deal with that. You've got to structure your environment. You can't have a smartphone. You've got to structure things in your life so you don't have the opportunity. I tell devotees, I've been using a computer since 1986. That's when the first laptops came out. I haven't been hit once by that stuff. Because devotees say, well, it just came on my laptop. I said, wait a minute. I was looking for this website or that website, and then, wow. So what can I do? I said, wait a minute. I said, how long have you been using a laptop for? Oh, maybe 20 years. I said, I've been using a laptop for 35 years. I haven't been hit. What am I doing something wrong? And then they start explaining to me, well, you see, you go to this website, and that sends you to another website, and you click on that, and then it says click on that, and then click on that, and then things just happen. So again, we're back to the point of the environment. I don't mean to embarrass the man by revealing these things, but this is what's going on. So, rather than put so much emphasis on our willpower, which in bhakti, yes, should be there, the integrity that we show because we took our initiation vows, and we've explained so many times how initiation vows help protect you. Just like on a fast day, Gaur Purnima, fast till 6 o'clock, Janmashtami, fast till midnight, your stomach does rumble. Hasn't everyone had that experience? And then you see the kids eating. Right? You eat on Janmashtami, don't you? During the day? Yeah. And so you see the kids running around, and there it's 6 o'clock on Janmashtami, and it's not like Gaur Purnima where you can have your feast very shortly after, was it sunset or moonrise? Moonrise. No, you've got to go till midnight, and there the kids are eating this and that and the other, and your stomach is growling. But you tell yourself, this is Janmashtami, I've got to make it till midnight. If you're healthy, by the way. If you're not healthy, then some adjustment can be there. But if you're healthy, I got to make it to midnight, even though my stomach is growling. That takes willpower, right? So what's the last place you want to be on Janmashtami? Yes, those who are in the kitchen know. It's just natural. It's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 p.m., and there you are in the kitchen, and it's for Krishna. It's tough. You got to have willpower. But ordinarily, you would not be in that kind of environment. But for service, you're doing it. So it does happen in bhakti that for the sake of service, you're in an environment that you'd rather not be, but for the sake of service, you have to show some willpower. It happens to every devotee. You do your best to structure your environment, but there do come times when situations where you're going to have to grit your teeth and chant Hare Krishna. I remember one example from one of my godbrothers. He was part of Srila Prabhupada's service team, traveling with him. And one of his duties was to cook lunch. So Prabhupada was visiting France. And so this devotee was American, and he was a brahmachari. And in order to cook Prabhupada's lunch, he had to go in the temple kitchen. And as he perceived it, the temple kitchen was full of very attractive French lady devotees. So as he described it, the very attractive French lady devotees were giving him the eye, and his mind saw all the stereotypes of the French ladies, like, ooh la la. Anyway, he was getting that kind of buzz from them. Ooh la la. So he went to Srila Prabhupada and said, I can't cook. I can't do it. Prabhupada said, why? All these French ladies in the kitchen, it's too much. I can't take it. I can't cook. And Prabhupada said, Oh, well, then I shall not eat. And the devotee realized, Prabhupada has to have his lunch. It's my service. I got to somehow or other bite my tongue, and in spite of all the perceived ooh la las, I have to do the service. So that happens to every devotee at some point, but you don't want to make it a daily event. As we do our part, and then you can say it's up to Krishna. If you don't do your part, then you can't honestly say that. So please keep this point in mind about what are the real heroics. The real heroics involve those who structure their environment, not those who just rigidly, with raw determination, resist any situation. No, what you're actually seeing is a person who's structured their environment so they have the least opportunity for heroics. So please keep that in mind. We want to chant Hare Krishna better. We want to do our bhakti practices better. That's going to take some environmental engineering. Not just go to the Recharge Festival, get fired up, and then back in the same environment again. Your home is set up in such a way that there are maximum distractions at every moment. You've got your phone, you've got your laptop. It just takes some intelligence to sort out your home environment to make it productive of the way you want things to be. Not simply the home, but also the ashram too. Ideally, the ashram for the single men and single ladies are meant to be places of maximized environment for executing the process of devotional service. It is easier to do that generally in an ashram than at home, but most devotees have a home, want a home, and so that means they're going to have to do some applied bhakti science engineering. Otherwise, you just say, hey, it's just what can be done? It's home life, Maharaj. It's just the way home life is. No. What do you want? There'll always be some inconvenience and things happening that are not planned. But you should minimize that by having a vision for your environment. How to minimize distractions, how to minimize provocations. And the converse also works. The material neuroscientists say you should make visible the prompts in your environment that you want, that bring about activities that are beneficial. We gave the example the other day. If you don't want to drink so many sugary beverages, you keep them hidden away and keep the water obvious. Make invisible what you don't want and make visible what you do want to do. Don't think you're so strong that you're not subject to what's immediately around you. So these are practical methods, how we can manage our life. Because I hear it all the time. Oh, this happened, that happened. Like a devotee is powerless. The men tell me, oh, these things came on my phone. What can I do? What can you do? Get rid of your smartphone. Get rid of a smartphone? Oh my God. It's the end of life as we know it on earth. All right, the ladies are not into porn, but social media, right? You gotta communicate, find out what so-and-so Devi Dasi's doing on the other side of the world, right? Right? Social networking, discussing every issue with at least 10 other ladies, right? And all that takes what? That's right. But it's got to be done, right? It's all part of being alive, right? So everyone has their challenges, which require some discipline and willpower shown by structuring your environment. If you don't want to be on social media late at night, disappear your phone past 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or something. How can you do that? There might be an emergency call. But these simple things sound so alien, don't they? Just like someone who's trying to avoid sweets. If you put all kinds of sweets in eyesight, generally what's going to happen? They're going to eat them. But if the sweets disappear, then there's less opportunity for provocation due to the fact you structured your environment. So again, that's how to be a real hero. Not by raw, brute determination, climb up the rock face of the mountain, but tailor your environment. There will be provocations because this is the illusory energy we're dealing with, but you minimize the opportunities. So let's hear some points from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. First of all, in discussing Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan, we've said how everyone needs their personal victory, that they were down, they were harassed by the illusory energy, their mind was driving them crazy, and they took more shelter of chanting Hare Krishna and turned their ship around. They clung to Krishna's lotus feet as the Hare Krishna mantra, even when they thought, I've been trying, this is not going to work. They just, like a child clinging to mother no matter what, they did that. And then, beyond their own personal time schedule for when Krishna should show up, they had a breakthrough. And it was a humbling realization that you can't hold a timetable to Krishna. You can't say, well, I've been chanting for so long and I'm just not getting the buzz I want. My mind is still full of trash. You show your purity and your dedication by persistence. And Krishna shows up when Krishna wants. It reminds me of an old song back in the 60s. You can't hurry love, you just have to wait. Then the chorus sings in the background, can't wait. This is our problem. So we all need our personal victory. And that shows sincerity, that I'll endeavor, and when Krishna wants to reveal more to me, Krishna will do that. And we can get into the heights of Krishna revelation through these comments by the Acharyas. But for now, let's understand that Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan means not simply a victory on the planetary level. After all, this is the golden age of Lord Chaitanya, which has just begun. So, for 10,000 years, the Shastra predicts, since the birth of Lord Chaitanya, you'll see bhakti flood the world. You're just seeing the beginning now. I don't know whether you would want to be around for more of Kali Yuga to see how the golden age of Lord Chaitanya further progresses. Our desire is to practice pure devotional service, meaning whatever Krishna or wherever Krishna wants me to be, that's where I'll be. But Srila Prabhupada would always advise, don't make plans to stick around in Kali Yuga. You think things are crazy now. You haven't seen anything yet. At the same time, A pure devotee does not aspire for liberation. A pure devotee aspires to Krishna however and wherever you want me to serve. That is back to Godhead, that attitude. So back to Godhead, back to Goloka is not just like some kind of locational thing. It's about consciousness. Your consciousness determines your location. So a real devotee is thinking, as we'll hear in the Siksastakam, Mama Janmani Janmani Srede, Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitakitve. Birth after birth, okay, I don't mind if that's the way Krishna wants it, but what I do request is that I always have service, devotional service. As we progress in bhakti, that attitude becomes more and more important for us. So Param Vijayate, the personal and planetary victory. Param Vijayate also means that chanting Hare Krishna is preeminent in all phases of bhakti, from the beginning level to the most advanced level. And it's preeminent in all the processes of devotional service. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that in this age of Kali especially, every process of devotional service, the 9 processes you know, has to be linked to chanting Hare Krishna. Next, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that chanting allows you to see your original spiritual identity in the clean mirror of your pure consciousness. So what's going on here? Well, to actually enhance upon this point, you need to hear some advanced information. So, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing of the dust on the mirror. That's the first thing you hear in verse 1 of Siksastakam. Because of the dust on the mirror of our consciousness, and our consciousness is the energy of the soul. So the dust on the mirror prevents you from seeing anything clearly. And what is that dust? Mainly it's thinking you are the body and mind. So the first installment of the victory in chanting Hare Krishna is that dust in which you think you are the body and mind is removed. And it's removed in the stage of anartha nivritti, getting rid of the unwanted things. What happens when there's no more dust on the mirror of your consciousness? That may be the question for older devotees. In the beginning, you should be focused on getting rid of the dust. But to inspire you for making progress to the higher levels of bhakti, you should know what happens when the dust is gone. It's not that you become shunya, zero, or become all one with everything. No, you see on the purified mirror of your consciousness, first you see 5 things. You see the existence of Krishna, the living entity, material nature, time, and karma. Remember those 5 things mentioned in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita? So that's what you see first when the mirror is cleansed. Cheto Darpana Marjana. Then you see the reflection of your original identity in your relationship with Krishna. You see that reflection of your original self on the mirror of your consciousness. So that is the ultimate victory of Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. How does that actually work? Since we've discussed some day-to-day practicalities, we'll now discuss something most advanced. So the question is asked that the acharyas deal with: at what stage does an attainer of pure bhakti acquire his Swadharma, or his Swarup Siddhi, his pure identity. This is talked about in the first verse of Siksastakam, Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Krishna's name is the life and soul of all Divya Gyan, divine knowledge. Because through the process of sincere hearing and chanting, the first rays of pure devotion finally appear in the heart. So you say, Shreya Kaira Chandrika Vitadanam. You're talking about the waxing moon. That waxing moon is the rays of the Hare Krishna mantra, which opens the white lotus flower. So when the moon, ordinary example, it's an allegory, a metaphor, when the moon rises, certain lotus flowers open up. So the effect of chanting Hare Krishna is like that moonshine, Chandrika, and it opens the lotus flower of your bhava, your loving emotions for Krishna. So that's what Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitadanam means. Once the first rays of pure devotion finally appear on the horizon of the heart, by sincere hearing and chanting, then Bhakti Devi, who is in charge of the process of pure bhakti and the destroyer of material desires detrimental to Krishna Seva, Bhakti Devi eclipses the avidya potency. So this is, you may remember in the verse, Vidya Vadu Jivanam. And Vadu means wife. But you don't see that referred to directly in the translations generally, because it's a very internalized point that you'll see according to your spiritual advancement. Vadu, the wife, refers to Krishna's internal potency, Haladini Shakti, which sometimes is referred to as Krishna's wife. So that's Bhakti Devi. And when Bhakti Devi eclipses the nescience potency, in other words, one potency overpowers the other. The internal potency overpowers the external potency affecting you, infecting you. And in this way, by infusing the soul with Divya Gyan, she destroys both the gross and subtle coverings of the soul. And then simultaneously, the jiva's original spiritual form begins to manifest. This is a bit technical, but it's good for everyone to hear. So you understand that bhakti is not simply about anartha nivritti, getting rid of the unwanted things, although that takes such a major effort. You'll be more inspired to give up the unwanted things when you know what are the higher levels of attainment. But we should not minimize focusing on getting rid of the ordinary dust on the mirror of our consciousness. So we talked about the mirror, and next we'll talk about the forest fire, Bhava Mahadavagni. This is a fire that can't be extinguished by any material method. You've heard about the massive blazes in California or Australia. When I was in the airport in Sydney last year, during the huge blazes in Australia and New South Wales, I was at the airport coming back to New Zealand, and some firefighters from New Zealand had just landed to do their part to help out in Australia. So they were there with their uniforms. They were marching through the Sydney airport, and all the Aussies were applauding. Good on you, mates. Thanks for coming over. But when will the day come when our Sankirtan devotees get that kind of applause? Good on you, mates. You're putting out the fire that no one else can put out. We want we want to earn that recognition from Lord Chaitanya, that we're assisting him in putting out a fire that has no material remedy. For the blazing fire of material existence, Bhava Mahadavagni, you can bring in all the fire brigades of the world, and the problem will not be solved. Another example given by the acharyas is someone has the idea to empty out the ocean by forming a bucket brigade, a chain of persons, and one person closest to the ocean scoops up some water, passes the bucket of water to the next person, and then the last person empties the bucket somewhere out on the land. So this is compared to material efforts for upliftment, material efforts for solving material problems. You're trying to empty out the ocean with a bucket brigade. Now, what is your psychology while you're doing this? Without intelligence, you can't understand that no matter how many buckets of water I take out of the ocean is still there. This is what it means to live in Kali Yuga. You can't add 1 + 1 = 2. You can't see that you're getting nowhere. But what you can see is behind you, there's a whole lake forming. Wow! Progress! We're doing something. And so you become fascinated by that. I'm passing so many buckets of water from the ocean, and look at, we're forming a big pond, a big lake behind us. Wow, did you see that? It's progress. Excuse me, but the ocean is still there. In time, give enough time. And so that's the example the acharyas give about the futility of trying to solve material problems with material methods. Now, does this mean that devotees never try to, if they're sick, they don't go to a doctor? It's a material method. If they have mental problems, they'll never go to a psychologist. It's a material method. If they got some health problem, they don't take any medication. No, we do the necessary, but we don't think that such material aids have solved our real problem in life. That's the difference. Just like when you take your car to the garage to have it fixed. The mechanics, hopefully they don't cheat you. They actually fix your car at an appropriate price. So you're satisfied that you've got your conveyance sorted out. But do you think that all your problems in life have been solved? And guess what? I took my car to the auto garage, and now my whole life is wonderful. No, you just do the necessary. You still have to deal with yourself. So that is a devotee's attitude toward material methods for help, whether for the body, the mind, or society. Yes, we agree. Human beings should not pollute their environment. There should be proper behavior toward the environment. But at the same time, we know that unless you clean up the consciousness of the human being, there'll be no permanent solution. So it's not that we're fanatics and say no material methods whatsoever. We recognize the value of material methods for what they are. We don't become mesmerized, hypnotized by the pond that we form by scooping buckets of water out of the ocean. The goal, remember, the goal is to dry up the ocean. You're not doing that, but instead you're becoming fascinated by this pond that you're developing, and you think that's progress. So that is our point. Now, Srila Prabhupada, in commenting on this verse, makes a very interesting point. That he says, the whole struggle for existence is that we are searching after the joyful stage of life. Can you see that in yourself? You're searching for joy. You're not searching for the routine stuff. Everyone wants to be joyful. As we saw in the drama last night, the splendid combination. There's a hope. Human beings they don't know what ecstasy is, but at least give me joy, let me be happy, whatever that is. So there's a constant search for that. That is the sum and substance of our quest in existence. I want to be joyful, but I'm missing the point. Someone who understands that becomes a bhakti yogi. I've missed the point. We say, yes, it's natural that you want to be joyful because you're part of Krishna, and Krishna is unlimitedly joyful. But you're looking in the wrong place for the joy. And that is a great realization. I've been looking in the wrong place. Not that you want to make everything 0 or 1, but you actually want joy. So Srila Prabhupada makes another point that in material existence, whatever joy you pursue and accept, it will decrease. Isn't that frustrating? When I'm speaking at universities, I explain something with a fancy name called the hedonic adaptation curve. Hedonic as in hedonism. So you start out, when you do a new activity, new relationship, new this, new that, whatever, you start out high on the curve. And then you proceed, and what happens? We're talking materially here. Why does it go down? Huh? Why does it lose its flavor? You can be more technical. Yes, it's temporary, but it loses its flavor because it Yes, and why does it lose its newness? Time. And it's the material energy. Both are conspiring against you. The material energy functions according to laws of material nature that, unfortunately, your best scientists don't know. The nature, the way the material energy functions is to bewilder you. It promises and then denies you. Or promises you, makes you go through a huge struggle just to get a little scrap, and then it says to you, all right, take that. This is what you worked and slaved for. Something so insignificant. But the insignificance of your achievement is combined with something else. And what's that? Insatiability. Oh, this is a real ripoff, isn't it? Even though it's so insignificant, you can't give it up. You can't say, enough, enough, enough. You can't do that. You may say it, but you can't live like that. So this is victimization. You're pursuing something that's so insignificant, and even if you realize that, it was just nothing. Why did I go through such an ordeal just to get that? You would think at such a point, someone would say, okay, never again. No, they still have the thirst. They still have the appetite. And it's enough to drive you crazy, isn't it? And people do go crazy. Or else you just have to take constant intoxication, or just become a workaholic. Bury yourself in some activity so you don't have to face these dynamics of how the material energy works. So the hedonic adaptation curve means you seem to start out high, and then you plummet because of time and the way the material energy works. So this is the tragedy of human existence. Whatever joy you try for, it will decrease. And you, in your weak moments of chanting, may think, well, chanting is like that too. Bhakti is like that too. It's decreased for me. When I first came, I was feeling refreshed, like someone who just come out of a storm, which you did. But now that I've been out of the storm, I don't feel that same buzz I used to feel. When I first walked into a kirtan, wow, I said, this is it, this is it. When I first tasted some Krishna food, I said, wow, yes. But then after a while, I don't feel that kick anymore. And so we start equating spiritual happiness with material happiness. And by your doing that, it leaves the door wide open for the illusory energy to make a comeback. Now you see, it was good for a while, yeah, that bhakti stuff was good for a while. But now you see that no matter what you do, it's going to start out fresh and peter out. So you might as well do whatever you like. Why miss out on all the good things of Kali Yuga when even your spiritual experience is going to peter out. It's going to fade, you see? So anyway, be all things. Be material and spiritual because it's all going to fade away. So you might as well have it all. In this way, our devilish mind destroys us. But anandam buddhi bardhanam. In the Siksastakam, that refers to an ocean that doesn't decrease. So here's the final point we'll make for today. Anandam buddhi bardhanam. The ocean increases. We don't have experience of that kind of ocean. Other than some exceptional cases of climate change when there's sea level rise. Even in New Zealand, the property evaluators are calculating which properties are going to be in danger in 10 or 20 years because of being on the coast where the rising sea will affect them. So much of the city of Miami is like that. But the developers keep developing. What does the biggest real estate developer in Miami say? Yeah, okay, so in 30 years, by 2050, all these development sites are going to be underwater. But that's for the next generation to figure out. He actually said that. Each generation has its challenges. My challenge is to make as much money as I can. It's the next generation, the kids. Let them, they'll be adults in 2050. They'll sort something out. So ordinarily, oceans don't cross their brink. Maybe an earthquake and there's a tsunami, but those are exceptional events. But the ocean of spiritual joyfulness is always increasing, and we want that vision. And guess what? That vision comes from your bhakti practices. But have you devised a career plan for your bhakti development? Just like many of you have career plans for jobs, for finances. Some of you may want to retire by the time you're 45 or 50. Or you've got family plans, right? There'll be this many kids. The kids will do this. They'll do that. They'll go to this school. They'll go to that school. So all that is good. But the centerpiece should be a lifelong plan how the bhakti is going to increase. Because anandam buddhi bardhanam, the spiritual ocean of joy is always increasing. So you want to plan how to become conscious of that and keep your awareness of that. So tomorrow we'll go to the next verse. And Chaitanya Charitamrita introduces that verse by saying within Lord Chaitanya awoke lamentation and humility. This is not material lamentation. he's going to express our unfortunate problem of having insufficient attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. In spite of everything that Krishna has given, some or other we are still unattracted, or insufficiently attracted. So Mahaprabhu is going to present himself in the role of, yes, a conditioned soul, but also, besides expressing someone who's practicing sadhana bhakti and trying to become unconditioned, he's also demonstrating the top level of bhakti, which is that you never think you have enough Krishna. You never think that you're chanting well enough. Just like when you sing the song about the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Hey Radhe Brajadevi Ge Chalalite, Hey Nanda Suno Kuta. They never, as Prabhupada explains, they never say, now we have attained Krishna. Krishna was always just beyond them. So as I often repeat, Srila Prabhupada saying, their mission, the mission of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan was always unfulfilled. They never got all the Krishna they wanted. Now, how is that perfection? An unfulfilled mission. That you'll understand in the later verses of Siksastakam, as Lord Chaitanya expresses the same ecstasy. How can there be ecstasy and unfulfillment, not attaining your mission? That's one of the greatest mysteries of bhakti, love of Krishna in separation, Vipralamba Seva. And it was for that reason, to taste that Krishna comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.